Hello everyone and welcome back to English with Kayleigh. In today's video we're going to analyse Jackie Kay's The Right Season. So before we get into it, I already have resources for teaching and studying Jackie Kay's collection. You can find that at Teachers Pay Teachers and the link will be in the description. So The Right Season, let's first talk about which collection it comes from within Kay's work. So originally it was in Other Lovers, that was written and produced in 1993. So in Other Lovers, Kay explores the qualities of love in a variety of relationships that are rooted in the past and the present. And more importantly here, we see the sequence on the blues singer Bessie Smith. So The Right Season is third in the Other Lovers collection and it follows on from Even the Trees, another poem that must be analysed for the CAIE A2 syllabus, and also in the Pullman. And I think it's important to look at the Pullman before you move on to The Right Season. It allows you to really understand and see that journey between Jackie Kay and Bessie Smith. Whilst it is imaginary, it's still important to note that. So here is In the Pullman. Bessie and I are in her Pullman heading for Tennessee. Bessie and I are in her Pullman heading for Tennessee. We've got so much heartbreak, we can't divide it easily. I take one piece, she takes another. We both drive, and our sadness drives further. It's way up ahead of Bessie and me. And even in springtime, it's hanging from the pawpaw tree. The road is long and flat. The fields are repeating the cotton. The road is so long and flat. Life is like that. We drive without moving. We try and carry on, but there's this big sadness hanging from the pawpaw tree. It's way up ahead of Bessie and me. So following on from that poem, we then see The Right Season, which is the poem we're going to analyse together today. The Right Season. They followed the tobacco crops in the spring, the cotton crops in the fall, all along the flat plains. It had to be the right time, the right town, where for the blues, people had enough money to spend. Call it a blues trail. A trail that led to a big tent. Town after town, people packed in like rice in a bowl. On she would come, the empress, the voodoo queen. Blast the blues into them so people remembered who they'd been. Took them to the sad place, the place they were scared to go. Took them to the mean place where they knew they'd been low. Somebody was waiting, and it might have felt like home. Somebody knew them. Somebody could see right into their soul. And she took them in feathers and plumes. She took them there in extraordinary costumes, a wig of horsehair and a lampshade fringe. Her blues were like secrets or shocking bits of news. Travelling on the Underground Railroad, out of the tent, a voice faster than the wind, where to meet, which house was safe, which church, carrying the blues from Chattanooga to Chicago, the tobacco crops in the spring, cotton in the fall. So what themes do we see in the poem The Right Season? So we see slavery, we see pain, and we also see the idea of freedom and unity between people. So let's look at it stanza by stanza. So in stanza 1, let's start with the title, The Right Season. So of course we've got the literal meaning, the ideal conditions for the best crops would have to be that right amount of rain in the right season. But obviously that metaphorical meaning is that right time to unite and to come together. So the poem starts with the collective pronoun they, which reflects the secretive nature of the meeting. So we don't learn about any individuals there, but we get this sense of this unit that come together from the offset. The tobacco crops, if you do some research into American history, so African slaves were used for the cultivation of tobacco and cotton. So this, again, just producing that link between African Americans and the history and the difficulties they had to endure. We have assonance within the first two sentences, again just highlighting that the continuous nature and the difficulties that people had to face. It had to be the right time, the right town, and just that repetition of the right links to the title and that metaphorical meaning of this safe and possible place for people to come together to unite. And finally, in the last sentence, again, we get that sense of community and that unity amongst the people. So in stanza 2, we now see this gathering in the tent, and we see that the blues singer blast her music into the community that have come to watch. People are packed in like rice in a bowl. We get the sense of something that's very common. Again, another nod to African American culture, cuisine. And then we see that on she would come, the Empress, the Voodoo Queen. And these were obviously names given to the blues singer Bessie Smith. And that's important for your AO1 mark in CAIE, that you can show that link of knowledge. Blast the blues, so this lovely powerful plosive B, and this is really a motif throughout the poem, blasting the blues in blasting that message. And what is that message? You know, there are multiple of avenues we could explore. Is it finding that power through music, uniting together, finding one's voice, and very importantly within this line, so people remembered who they'd been, remembering one's identity. And an AO5 mark you could pick up there is David Paddy. So we get the sense of the intensity and the vigor of her message and the way she expresses it to the group. Of course, like with much of Kay's work, when we see this journey throughout America with Bessie Smith, we have this internal rhyme. Here we see Queen and Bean. And of course, this reflects blues music, but also highlights that harmony that Smith brings to the Black community. So in stanza 3 and 4, we start with this anaphora, this took them and somebody. And of course, in terms of the music, in taking them, it shows that she herself is able to take the people on a journey of self-discovery and realization, and that remembrance of who they are. And of course, that also links to that physical journey that Kay and Bessie are embarking on together, which obviously links to the series of poems. Of course, we continue here with that internal rhyme, with the rhyme scheme, go, low, home, soul. There's definitely a sense of sadness here, but moves to a sense of comfort as we move to this idea of home. And the simplicity of the ideas and the words allow readers and allow the group to return to a better or simpler time, of course referring to a time before slavery, or indeed looking forward as well in what's to come. And then we have a contrast here with the rice and the tobacco and the cotton fields, and we move to this very exotic description of this character with the feathers and the plumes and her costumes. And then the last sentence references back to stanza 2 with this motif of blasting the truth. So her blues were like secrets or shocking bits of news. So this revelation of change and of fearlessness of wanting to change. And then we move on to stanzas 5 and 6, 6 being the final stanza, the standalone sentence. But just before we get there, in stanza 5, this is where we see people returning back. They move and they travel back to their homes and where they are, where they're living. So we see this return to reality. And we see this security and the safety is removed here when they start to think about where can they meet and where is safe. But we also get the sense that they are being quite creative with ways of now sharing the message. And of course, that Underground Railroad just highlights those secret routes and safe havens for those that were enslaved, how they would get around. So we have very sharp caesareas in the third line of the stanza. But what's interesting is there are no longer questions here. There are no longer questions for this community. It seems that they are very resolute in sharing the message far and wide. The only thing they now need to do is to identify and highlight the places in which it is safe to do so. And then we just get this message again of them wanting to carry this message far and wide, the message of unity and fearlessness from the community. And just a small note is that Chattanooga is in Tennessee, so 500 miles from Tennessee to Chicago. So we can see just how far this message is being shared across America. But it ends on a more somber note, the tobacco crops in the spring, cotton in the fall. So Kay here once again hints at that unbroken cycle of slavery and endured racism. So just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the form, the speaker, and AO5 for the right season. So in terms of form, of course, we have 6 stanzas. The first 5 are made up of lengthy quatrains. And this simultaneously alludes to the relentless nature of racism, but also the power of blues music on the Black community. The last stanza comprises of a standalone line, which of course highlights that recurring nature of racism in society. So whilst we start to see a breakthrough in how people feel and how they're going to unite, it comes back to that idea of, but this is what we are faced with now. So the speaker, of course, you want to mention that this is an imaginary journey between Kay as she travels through the US with Bessie Smith. Of course, you could look at the psychoanalytical theory here, given how influential Smith was to Jackie Kay as a young woman. Bessie Smith was an openly bisexual woman. And of course, she was a Black woman who utilized words as a blues singer. We have to acknowledge that there's poetry in that, and that is what Jackie Kay is herself. So in using words to empower others. So if I was to look at AO5 for this particular piece, as I said before, I would definitely talk about David Paddy and identity theory in Kay's works. You may also want to look at Adrienne Rice when she discusses how Kay goes for the racist jugular and how far you maybe agree with that in this poem or likewise disagree with that statement. And finally, psychoanalytical theory as well. So I hope this video has been helpful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more Jackie Kay analysis videos, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye guys.